Good afternoon to all the teachers attending the TDC Teaching Development Conference 2024 Arequipa, organized by SBS Librería Internacional. In this new edition, we meet again through the hybrid format, using tools that allow us to meet the colleagues connected from different parts of our country. On behalf of SBS Librería Internacional, I would like to thank you for attending this event. We are in a continuous improvement of virtual education, and we are trying to balance our reality to enhance our face-to-face classes and virtual classes with amazing tools. At SBS, we have this great opportunity to be in contact with the best publishers in the world. And this makes it possible for us to bring together in a single event some of the best international specialists representing their publishers and institutions, bringing with them knowledge that has been developed in different parts of the world and apply it successfully in our English teaching here in our schools, institutes, universities, cities, and countries. Without further ado, I'd like to invite you to watch the following video with me. Let's go, team.
En SBS, Librería Internacional, estamos comprometidos con la educación y la difusión de la cultura a través de materiales físicos y digitales. Somos una de las cadenas más grandes de Sudamérica, orientada a producir y distribuir libros de idiomas, académicos y de interés general, así como bibliografía clásica e imprescindible. Hemos consolidado nuestra presencia en Perú con librerías ubicadas estratégicamente en Lima, Cusco, Arequipa, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Iquitos y Huancayo. Además de una librería online, donde presentamos una gran variedad de títulos que podrás recibir desde la comodidad de tu hogar, gracias a nuestro servicio de delivery a nivel nacional. Además, acompañamos el desarrollo profesional de maestros a través de eventos académicos y capacitaciones gracias a nuestro programa SBS Advantage Docente. SBS Librería Internacional. Soluciones para quien enseña y para quien aprende.
Thank you very much, Team SBS. Now I'm going to talk about how certificates of attendance to this event will be issued. If you have not yet registered for the conference, please do so now using the registration link in the comments box or in the video description. Remember to enter your email carefully so that you can receive your certificate without any issues. Very good. Now, to start, I want to thank the publisher, Cambridge University Press and Assessment, for participating in this event. In Cambridge, we believe that language is at the heart of being human, and English can unlock a lifetime of experiences. Together with teachers and our partners, we're here to engage and inspire millions of people throughout their entire learning journey. We help people learn English, improve their skills to the world. To get to know a bit more about Cambridge, let's watch this video.
Grow. Grew. Grown. When you grow up, what will you be when you grow up? She grows, she learns, she improves. Her interest is growing. She grows in she will prove herself. She grows in curiosity. She is curious. Curiosity. Her passion is growing stronger. She grows in confidence. She grows in confidence. I will grow in confidence, prove myself, and reach my full potential. This is where ambition grows, where potential grows and where your future grows. Go. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to learn about the sky at night. Cambridge is where your world grows.
Great. Now I'd like to introduce the first speaker of this event, the renowned consultant Raul Rodriguez Constantine, with the topic End-to-End, Teaching, Learning, and Assessment and a Community Learning Classroom. Raul is an English teacher with over 21 years of teaching experience with teens and adults. He is certified with TFL teaching techniques and strong preparation in CLIL environments. He has taught subjects like arts, sociology, literature, science, language arts, and academic writing. Currently, he is a professional learning and development consultant for Cambridge University Press and Assessment and a teacher preparing students for Cambridge English qualifications at the Benedict School of Languages in Guayaquil. Welcome to the TDC, Raul.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Am I sharing my screen? Yes? Yes? Okay, I guess I am. Okay, good evening. Okay, good afternoon. Still afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Guayaquil, Ecuador. I'm in the coast of Ecuador. And of course, for me, it's a pleasure to be here in this exclusive and very, very interesting event. And of course, on behalf of Cambridge University Press and Assessment, we're glad to be here. Also, of course, telling everyone happy tomorrow is the Worldwide Teachers Day. So I'm telling you in advance, happy Teachers Day, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Okay, so as the presenter said, yes, my name is Raul Rodriguez. I am a teacher trainer. I've been teaching for 22 years, and now I work consulting as an academic for Cambridge University Press and Assessment in Ecuador. And of course, we also help throughout the region. In other countries, of course, all of the academics from different countries. Okay, so let's start, shall we? Okay, so today's topic, okay, as you already know, is the end-to-end teaching, learning, and assessing in the communicative language classroom. Okay, my name is Raul Rodriguez, once again, professional learning and development consultant. Okay, so this is, assessing is something that we teachers, okay, I'm a teacher as well, always, I don't want to say that we have troubles with, okay, because especially nowadays, we do have a lot of tools for formative and summative assessment, okay? The issue is that sometimes the mixing, or how to put everything together and to reach proper conclusions and how to make this meaningful, that could be an issue, and that's the reason and the soul of this presentation. So that's why it says end to end. So from A to C without skipping B. But let's forget a little bit about English, okay? And let's talk about maybe something that is very, very relatable to all of us teachers. Maybe not to me. You know, I am an exception to the rule. I am a teacher who doesn't drink coffee. So that's why I am a weird teacher. That's what everybody tells me, hey, Mr. Raul, you want your coffee? I'm sorry, I don't do coffee. Hey, and they see me as if I were nuts. But yeah, I'm not a big coffee fan, but I know most teachers are. So that's why I'm going to use this analogy related to coffee. So before we dip into the main topic and use real language teaching examples, okay, I would like you to answer, okay? I don't know, I cannot see the chat, but I don't know if anyone can just tell me, or maybe in the end I will see what makes a cup of coffee good or bad. Okay, so just think for a minute. Okay, you're gonna drink your coffee. For you, according to you, what makes a cup of coffee good or bad? I've heard a lot of things from different people. Okay, so just think about it. What makes for you a good cup of coffee? I don't know, you name it. Think about it, think about it, think about it. Now, because I told you that I am not a coffee connoisseur, I went to the experts. Okay, and according to the Blue Bottle Coffee blog, where they ask, or where they have this research on which are the 5 elements of coffee tasting, they have sweetness, they have body, acidity, flavors. No, you call it. I mean, I know there are different flavors of coffee, but you choose your favorite. And of course, the finish. Okay, but what is the finish? Okay, don't worry, we're gonna go through it. So these are the 5 things, according to experts, not according to me, according to experts, that are the ones that people that drink coffee often, or that are big coffee drinkers, look for in a good cup of coffee. Okay, so let's move on. Now, we identify we identify, okay, what makes a good cup of coffee. So we're going to narrow it down to these 5, but we're going to just make it narrower, and we're going to choose one. So we're going to pick a unit. So of all these 5 units, of all these 5 characteristics, we're going to choose one. I'm going to go with body. Okay, so can we describe this? Can you describe the body of coffee? People that drink beer, they can describe the body of beer. People that drink wine, they can describe the body of wine. Okay, I really don't know. I drink beer, but I'm not I'm not an expert, but people can describe it. Okay, now, body is this is the weight and feel of the coffee on your tongue. Does the coffee feel like skim milk, or heavy like whipping cream? So it feels like, like milky, or whipping cream, like creamier. Okay. Now, maybe if here I have people that drink a lot of coffee and you know this, okay, maybe you know what I'm talking about. But remember, I have the characteristics. I chose one, and I'm going to start breaking down this one. Okay, so what is the body? Body is the weight and feel of the coffee on your tongue. Okay, if it's light or if it's heavy as cream. Okay, so can we break this down? Of course, we can keep breaking down the weight and feel of the coffee on your tongue. Okay, to evaluate the body, of a coffee, tasters will consider the thickness, the creaminess, and viscosity of the brewed coffee. So the brewed coffee, the one that you put the seed, the grains, and then you brew it. Okay, you need to, the samples will, the testers will need to check the thickness, creaminess, and viscosity in order to see if it has good body. A high quality coffee will have a full and satisfying body that enhances the overall sensory experience. So you see, what makes a good cup of coffee? I had 5, okay, characteristics. I chose one, and that one is my unit of learning, and I start breaking it down. Okay, so we went to the thickness, the creaminess, the viscosity, and so on. So with this, can I make rubrics for these standards? Of course we can. A full and satisfying body, thickness, creaminess, and viscosity. So the full body, so this would be the standard, no? Sorry, this would be the rubrics. So full bodied is strong and pleasant, even with that tactile sense of viscosity. Okay. A medium body would indicate a coffee that seems diluted and poor to espresso lovers. Maybe an espresso lover, like a big coffee fan that drinks espresso, might not like it. Okay, but with just the right amount of body to consumers preferring filtered coffee. And the round body, which is the set of sensations dictated by taste and consistency, free of excessive or inadequate tastes and with a perceived sense of balance. So in simple words, in words that I mean like for me that I'm not a coffee connoisseur, full body would be like a strong coffee, but it's, at the same time it's pleasant and a little with some viscosity. Medium body would be diluted, okay, maybe not super strong, but just the right amount. And the round body would be this coffee that if sorry, okay, the round body is the one that gives you the sensation, okay, that is dictated by the taste, and it's not consistent, and okay, and of course it has this perfect balance. Okay, so with the coffee, okay, with something as tasting coffee, we created a rubric. Okay, so what would be full body, what would be medium body, what would be round body, according to what I tasted. Okay, then if we were teaching coffee instead of English, how would we design a coffee quality syllabus, and what activities would we include in the body unit? Okay, and of course, what kind of test would we design for our course? Oh, sorry, wait. So remember, in the beginning, what did we do? Okay, we had the coffee. We had the question. Okay, what would be a good or bad cup of coffee? The activities. Okay, so let's start breaking down. You know what I already showed you: the creaminess, the viscosity, and what kind of test would you design? Okay, here's the rubric. Here's the coffee. You taste it. So what I did is just an analogy with something mundane as coffee. Okay, of course, with some, with some specific vocabulary related to coffee, but it's still thing that we do in class. Okay, we design a syllabus. We go through units of learning. When you go unit 1, unit 2, unit 3 of the book, and of course, what kind of tests will we design for our course? This means the assessment. So let's recap. We chose a subject, coffee. We defined the subject in theory, okay, what makes a good coffee, what makes a bad cup of coffee. We turned the definition into observable features, okay? So these characteristics that I want to see, that I want to touch, I want to taste, okay? We define a criteria for the feature, remember, okay? The types of coffee, the types of body. We design a syllabus, and we design an evaluation tool. Okay? Now, let's forget about coffee. You can have coffee if you want right now, that's okay. But now let's switch to English. So what are we teaching and assessing? I mean, you can write all the answers in the chat. Okay, so what are we teaching? What are we teaching and assessing? So all teachers are always asking this ourselves, but that would be like the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, I don't know if you know that expression, but the elephant in the room is like that problem or that issue that is there, but nobody wants to talk about it. Okay, so yes, I'm teaching the book. Today I'm teaching unit 8, and at the end of the book there's a unit test, and I'm just going to do the unit test once I finish the unit. Okay, which is okay, but again, it's about the process. Okay, it's about the learning process and how to make it meaningful. Okay, so that my teaching and my assessing, okay, go hand in hand. Okay, most experienced teachers they navigate easier on these waters, on the teaching and assessing. Yeah, if you're teaching of the first years, your first 3 4 5 years, you're still in the learning process. Okay. And based on my experience, my first years of teaching, they were not the best. I still learned. Okay. But of course, there are many things that are related to assessment that we're going to go through later. Later on in the workshop, and then you'll notice that it's about that everything is connected and how it's connected to reach proper assessment. Okay. So teaching language as communication. First things first, we need to understand that language is a tool. Okay. It's a tool that the typical, that opens windows, it gives you opportunities, travel, you name it. But it's a competence. Okay. And how language is a competence. Sorry. Okay. So competence is the sum of knowledge, which is the things that I know. Remember, so in Spanish we say, I don't know, in Peru I think it's the same. We say yo sé inglés, yo sí sé inglés, yo sé inglés, and some people translate it as I know English. That doesn't mean you speak English. That doesn't mean you understand English. So you have to be very careful with how we say it. Okay. So the sum of knowledge is what you know. The skills, your can-do statements, or the things that you can do with the language, with what you know. The characteristics, what you are. Okay. That allow a person to perform actions. I use it to do things. So it's about what you know. How you use what you know, what you can do. Okay. What you are as a person in whatever field you're developing in. And of course, you use it to do things. To do what? To communicate, emails, business. The sky's the limit. Then, all human competences contribute in one way or another to the language user's ability to communicate. Okay? So with this, we have all human competences. We have two, which are the general competences and the communicative language competences. This is paramount for us teachers to know and to identify when it comes to communication. Okay, we need to have a clear path on what are the competences we're developing with our students. So when we talk about the general competences, we talk about the not specific to the language ones, used for all activities including the language. For instance, knowledge of the world, intercultural skills, ability to learn, etc. Okay. In contrast to that, we have the communicative language competences, which we already know as teachers: the linguistic, the social linguistic, and the pragmatic. An example of linguistic: lexical, grammatical, semantic, vocabulary, all the systems. Okay. Social linguistic, social relationships. Okay, in linguistic also functional language, for example. Social linguistic, social relationships, the dialect, your accent, your politeness, your register, your tone, body language, all that is social linguistic. And the pragmatic one is the simple everyday use in discourse and functional language. That means, like, the pragmatic part of the competence would be the common use. Okay. So these are very well connected, and these are the ones that we must develop while we are in class. Okay, that's why I always say, you cannot skip A, B. You don't get to D without going through B and C. Okay. So unpacking them, we have the communicative language competence, okay, which of course takes you to the communicative activities, which are for the receptive, the ones that they listen or read, the ones that are related to production, written or spoken, the mediation from the teacher, and of course the interaction with the teacher and with other peers. And of course, this could be done oral or written. I don't know if you have heard the saying, you speak like you write, or you write like you speak. Yeah, I mean, it's that's the way. But in order for you to speak and write properly, you need to be receptive. That means you need to have good listening skills and good reading skills, okay? Or else you don't have anything to give feedback from, okay? Anything to give, explain something. If you didn't listen properly, you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to explain. Mediation from the teacher or other peers could be, and of course, the interaction with the world, oral or written, okay? So let's go in order. We chose a subject, okay, whichever subject you chose. We define the subject in theory, okay, and we turn the definition into then we have to turn, of course, the definition into observable features. We define a criteria for a feature, we design a syllabus, we design an evaluation tool. So far we have these two. Let's continue. What about assessment? Now we have the topic. Now, how do we assess this? Okay, first of all, what is assessment anyway? I know you all have your definitions on assessment, okay? I mean, you can be nerdy. I mean, you have like a very elaborate definition for assessment in a dictionary or in a web page. That's okay, but teacher language, So, teacher, Mr. Raul, what is assessment? Okay, yeah, assessment is when you test students, basically, or you have continuous testing on students. Okay, now I really like this definition because it actually, because the definition that we give as teachers is assessment is testing, which it is. But if we want to give like body to that definition, or breaking it down, would be observing evidence from performance and interpreting it so we can reach conclusions about what individuals know and can do in order to make decisions based on those conclusions. Okay? When you assess someone, you have to observe evidence from whatever they're performing on. I mean, written, spoken, you name it. You have to interpret those and you reach a conclusion. Usually the conclusion is a grade, okay, or a suggestion. But sometimes we just stop there. Okay, give me the evidence, give me the paper, or give me your exposition. Okay, so you have these mistakes, you did this right, you did this wrong. And in conclusion, you have B plus, A plus, I don't know, 100%, 90%, 75%, you name it. Now, but do we really make decisions based on those conclusions? You answered that answer to yourselves. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to be raw honest with you. I usually, as I said, in my first years of teaching, I usually skipped the making decisions part. So, and that means, I just left the student out in the open with a grade. Okay, so there's always that after the grade scenario, which is making decisions. So what should I do for my students to improve grammar? What should I do for my students to improve the speaking part in the B2 or the B1 exam? And many other things that might appear. Okay, so it's you observe the evidence, you interpret it, you have to interpret it, you reach conclusions, and we need to make decisions. It could be decisions from the teacher, okay, on how to manage the class, on how to improve, or it could be split decisions in which you involve your students as well. If you're missing any of these four, you are not assessing properly. Okay, of course, this is not Raul, it's experts saying this. I'm just a messenger of our Cambridge experts. Okay, so you observe it, you interpret it, you reach conclusions, and then you make decisions. But don't worry, I'm just not gonna say it, I'm gonna show you. Okay. Remember, we cannot define assessment without thinking about teaching and learning. Okay? Teaching and learning. Okay, we're going to go there in a minute. And of course, we cannot talk about assessment without talking about what to do next. And that's what I was explaining. Okay. For all these four things to happen, we need to have proper teaching and proper learning. And of course, we need to think what's next. So I finished unit 7, which was about food. I taught it. My students learned it. They were assessed. What's next? Okay, but there are many things that come next, by the way. So I'm not gonna stay in that forever because it's gonna take long. But I'm gonna show you again in the slides that are coming. So functions of assessment, I think you already know this. I don't want to stay here forever. Formative and summative. But different? Are they different? Are they like super different? Are they exclusive? Like, okay, so I mean, exclusive means in this case, what I'm trying to say is like, um, for example, I just do one of the two, or they're like two separate worlds. What do you think? Okay, just answer to yourself. What do you think? Now, let me tell you. Wait, let me hide this because I can't see. They're both still learning processes. Okay? We tend to see formative assessment. I'm gonna give you an example of what happened in my country. Years ago, we used to have trimestres. Every 3 months there was like a strong summative exam. Okay, that it was almost like 70% of the grade of the trimester. Okay, and they all of a sudden they changed it, and they valued more the formative assessment nor the summative. Okay, um, now 15, 20 years later, it's a mix. It's like, okay, you can do more like trimestre, like more focus more on the summative part, and then or you can do the more the formative part. So it's kind of a mix, or it's kind of like optional. Why? Because they noticed that they are both part of a learning process. Okay, yes, they're different. Okay, but they cannot be seen as two different worlds there, because there needs to be a connection. Okay, so two orientations of assessment with one common goal. Assessment becomes formative assessment when the evidence is actually used to adapt the teaching work to meet the needs. Okay, in English, always the suggestion is, the formative assessment has to be well polished. You work your 4 skills. Okay, you need to have proper evidence that your students are doing it right. Now let's focus on speaking here, for example. Okay, so you work out the rubrics, you work out everything they need to do to reach a good grade when they get to the um, summative assessment. Okay, but again, it's a process. It's the learning process. Okay, both of them are still important. Okay, so in simple maths, in simple numbers, okay, teaching plus assessment equals to learning. What do you think? I talked about, and I said it repeatedly, there needs to be a proper learning process. Okay, so teaching and assessment is not learning. It's like we say, okay, if there's no coffee, okay, there's no milk. That means there's only latte. Latte, I don't know how they call it in Peru, latte. Okay, a latte is coffee and milk, but it's not just coffee. It's not just milk. It's the mix. So take it like this: a proper latte with the proper mix of coffee and the proper mix of milk, it's good learning. Okay, so everything needs to be even. That's what I told you, the example of the trimestre. What happened there? Okay, students were not focusing, and teachers were not focusing properly on formative assessment because they were more focused on the summative assessment. Okay, so it's like a latte is not more coffee, it's not more milk, it's the perfect mix of both. And that would be a good learning process. Okay, so it's again proper balance. Okay, and there are steps to do this. And let me show you how we do the end to end. Okay, so we chose a topic, a subject. We define the subject in theory. Now, we turn the definition into observable features. We define a criteria for a feature. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now, let's go use the Common European Framework assessment for the B1. Okay, so this is how we start. In this case, I'm going to use the CFR global scale. For the B1 level, let's choose the B1 level. So I'm going to focus on this. My B1 student, in terms of speaking, of course, can describe experiences and events, and can give reasons and explanations for opinions and plans. So this is my students can do statement B1. If I have a B1 or a student that claims that he or she is a B1 and cannot do this, of course, he's not B1. Okay? Again, these are observables, okay? Features. So in spoken production, I can briefly give reasons and explanations for opinions and plans. I can narrate a story or relate the plot of a book or film to describe my reactions. In terms of writing, I can write personal letters describing experiences and expressions. Okay, this is a self-assessment grid. Everything, if you're familiar with the can-do statements, the Common European Framework, they always give you the can-do. You know, I always have teachers asking me when I'm training teachers, and they ask me, "Hey, Raul, how can I assess a B1 student? How can I assess a B? How do I know if a student is a B2?" Go to the CFR document and see what he or she can and can't do. Okay, because it's everything about can. How do you say in English, "Yo sé hablar inglés"? When you go en español, la típica pregunta, "Disculpa, ¿tú sabes inglés?" "Ah, sí, yo sí sé inglés." Okay. In English, it's not like that. The question is, can you speak English? Yes, I can. No, I can't. Okay, it's can. It's the ability to use the language, not knowing. Okay, it's the ability. So that's why they're called can-do statements. What can you do with what you know? Okay, so let's make it visible. These definitions are turned into features, so I break them down. Okay, my student can write, my student can tell, my student can identify, my student can infer, you name it. But if you see, for example, here, I'm going to use this. This rubric would be from the B1 exam. So in the B1 exam, what they want in English, okay, here, for the writing section, for example, content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. Communicative achievement uses the conventions of the communicative task in generally appropriate ways to communicate straightforward ideas. So this is how they break it down. And they give you a scale from 0 to 5. For example, this is how Cambridge examiners grade, assess students. Okay, and this is an example. So you turn the definitions into features. They describe the expected performance and expected performance, and then you dive into levels of performance. Okay, so these are the levels: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and then you check them one by one. Okay, now here I'm gonna stop a bit. It's important for you, if you're checking speaking or writing, to be very objective. Okay, especially the writing. Okay, because sometimes we focus a lot on checking a lot of grammar mistakes, a lot of spelling mistakes, a lot of punctuation mistakes. Now, If these grammar mistakes don't affect the content and you understand everything you read, okay, you can be a little bit more objective and you can just don't take off a lot of points. Okay, so try to be objective. Okay, in communicative achievement, then you have organization. For example, if you wrote an email, if you had the said hello, you said goodbye, you follow the proper format of an email, the format proper of an essay, introduction, body, conclusion, 3 ideas, 4 ideas, you name it. Okay, language. If you use everyday language, how you use lexes, how you use vocabulary. Uh, and here at the bottom, if you go to the bottom, here where it says errors may impede meaning at times, you see, this is when you get 0. If you get 5 points, errors do not impede communication. So you can get 5, I mean, you can get 10 or 15 out of 15 in a writing exam in spite of your grammar mistakes. Why? Because you're communicating properly. Okay. So be objective. This is something that I put into right now. It just came up to me because I have seen that most teachers, when they check, especially the productive part, they are not being objective. So if you're asking for information about vacation, if your students gave all the content is proper and they have some slight pronunciation mistakes or language mistakes, okay, that's okay. You can let them back. Of course, you need to polish, you need to do feedback, but the important thing is about communication. So be objective on whatever you're doing. Okay, just as a reminder. Now, from the CFR, from the can-do statements, and from all this, and from all the from the CFR, we take it to the book. This is an example of Think, which is one of our books from Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Now, this is the scope and sequence, okay? So we chose Unit 5, storytelling, tell a story. Can your student tell the sequence of events? It's in the book, telling a story. Can your student use proper grammar and in real context? It's the grammar there. The systems, the grammar and the vocabulary. Think about different writing styles. Articles. So you want to write a novel? Article series, there are always 2 sides of an argument. Books are always better than their films. Okay, so here they develop skills. So what do you develop here? Just have your grammar, vocabulary, which are the systems. Okay, in this case, because Think has a high cognitive level, okay, it's a high cognitive level book. Okay, you have these sections that are called Think sections, but you have the reading section, which is the receptive section, the receptive part, the listening, receptive, and the writing, which is the productive. Okay, all of this is formative, yes. Okay, sorry. And then you, of course, end up in the writing, which you can turn it into summative, but it's a learning process. Now, teach it. It has to be in a global focus. Functions, for example, telling a story. Here they listen. Here you have a story. Write a novel, do you? In this case, here you have like the global part. This is, you're reading about someone else, about how this person suggests you to write a novel. Okay, then you have the Think sections. Think about different styles. Watch a video. What makes a really good story? Okay, and then you have more videos about storytelling in the Caribbean. So this is part of learning. Okay, looking at examples, other perspectives, in this case, how other people tell stories, okay, functional language, and so on. Then the other way of teaching it, here's where you apply the mechanics. So we have the context. Now we go to the mechanics, the grammar. We teachers, some teachers, I don't know now, but I'm 46 years old. And I come from I had to, in my 22 years of teaching, I've had to I mean, to adapt, you know, I had to adapt to the projectors, to the platforms, to the apps, to the virtual learning, teaching, and so on. So there's still a lot of teachers that are called grammarians, that they love the grammar and they see grammar as the most difficult thing. Okay, it's okay. Okay, I mean, you can have, because we all have a strengths. Okay, so if teaching grammar is one of your strengths, amazing. But again, like, like a good latte, find balance. Okay, find balance for skills. Okay, teach the mechanics using a proper context. Okay, so here you have the mechanics, the grammar, the vocabulary, the systems. Okay, and all of them must be used in the production, in this case, the speaking section. So you make sure that you give them the context, you give them the proper mechanics, the mechanics, in this case, the grammar and the vocabulary. And when they perform, they need to use what they learn, okay, based on the context that it's the context of the unit. Okay, then we practice it. Okay, grammar. What happens with grammar? I'm gonna give you a real example. I was observing. I mean, um, I used to work in a high school where we used to do peer observation. So that means that we used to observe each other's classes. I mean, from peers, from our fellow teachers. And I remember, in my first years of teaching, I clearly remember I was teaching the present perfect. So I came, oh, present perfect, this is the rule, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, okay, now this is the rule. Please write 5 sentences using the present perfect. No, 6 sentences using the present perfect. 3 in positive and 3 in negative. You have 5 minutes. So I ended the class, and I remember my fellow teacher, who was way more experienced than me. Now he's retired. He told me, you know what you did wrong? I mean, yeah, what did I do wrong? I just did the exercise, No. You told them to make 6 sentences from a rule that you explained. But what is in between? What do you mean? What you're observing here on this screen, exercises, control exercises, less control exercises. The control exercises, what are those? Circle, match, complete with one word. What are the less control exercises? The ones that you have in the workbook. Unscramble the sentences, complete with one word, and all those activities that you have in the workbook. So if you're teaching with Cambridge books or any book, you go to the student book and the workbook. They give you a sequence of exercises to practice, and that if you don't follow the sequence of the grammar, inductive grammar or deductive grammar, whatever grammar you're teaching, control practice, less control practice, and free practice, which is the speaking, the writing, expositions. Okay, if you don't follow that pattern, you're not achieving proper learning, nor meaningful learning as well. Okay, so just a quick reminder of that. Okay, grammar, it has a process that needs to be respected. If you miss one of those 3, the control, less control, and the free practice, your final product will not be the proper one. Okay, so these are the exercises that you have, and they all lead to what? Discussion. For example, discuss the following questions with your partner. Okay, what was the last story you read, etc., etc. So we turn the definition to observable features. We define a criteria for the feature. Now let's design a syllabus, and of course, we design a syllabus, and then we design an evaluation tool. Ongoing assessment. There you go. This is what I'm talking. This is what I was talking about. Grammar, controlled practice, less controlled practice. Okay. Extension. In this case, extension tests. So here you have standard tests with the controlled practice, with the less controlled practice, etc. Okay. So now that you completed all that, then you go and start testing. Okay, or assessing. First, the mechanics. I need to know if they know the grammar and the vocabulary. Okay, now this is an example of a B1 exam. You see? Sorry. For each question, write the correct answer. Write one word for each gap. But mister, this is not grammar vocabulary. Yes, it is. It's just in a different format. It's in the Cambridge exam format. But you complete the gaps with vocabulary you know, and you have to connect it with the proper grammar as well. Okay? Then the performance. Now, we had the mechanic part. Now the performance. Explain, suggest, tell me. Okay? If you're teaching higher levels or if you have B1 plus B2 students, inferring, contrasting, agreeing, disagreeing. Okay? Writing. What makes you laugh? Tell us what you find funny. Do you think it's good to laugh a lot? Why? Why yes? Why no? You see? So you see how I move from A to B, B to C, C to D, and so on. Okay, you cannot skip a letter. So, what do we have? Job done. We chose a subject. Let's suppose grammar. We defined the subject in theory. Okay, what's the grammar about? The form, the meaning, pronunciation, maybe. We turn the definition into observable features. Yes, of course. We try to do all the exercises, the control practice, less control practice. We define a criteria for a feature. Okay. So what am I going to test? What am I going to assess? What am I going to check, or what am I going to focus? What is the objective of what we're doing? Of course, the syllabus, and then we have the evaluation tool, which are the summative assessment. Now, are we done? Actually, not yet. These are all essential. Yes, they are. But remember our definition. We had the evidence, we interpreted, we reached conclusions which are usually a grade. But please, let's not forget to make decisions. Okay, students, we finished Unit 8. Let's have some recap. Let's have some metacognition. Let's reflect on what you learned. Okay, so this is something that we missed. Okay, what did you struggle with? What did you like the most about the unit? What didn't you like about the unit? What didn't you like about my teaching? How can I change this? And so on. And let's decide what would be the next step. Okay, mister, the present perfect is not clear enough. Okay, maybe I know the grammar, I know the form, I know the rule, but I don't know how to use it when I write it. I cannot use it when I speak it. Okay, so let's decide on what would be the proper strategies to reach proper learning. Okay, proper learning with a good balance of formative and summative assessment. So the last one would be make decisions. I cannot talk about what would be all the decisions that are available out there. They have to do a lot with reflection. They have to do a lot with content feedback and delayed error feedback. The delayed error feedback is the one that is more common with us teachers. The typical. He have a book. No, have, no, has. Okay, delay error, punctuation, maybe some spelling, grammar use, vocabulary. But we're not focusing on the content feedback. Okay, so I know you don't know the grammar. Okay, that's okay, but I understand what you're trying to say. So let's fix the grammar. Or it could be the opposite. Okay, your grammar is so bad that I don't understand what you're trying to say. Okay, so once we have all the information, once we finish the proper learning process, we can make proper decisions. If you don't have a proper learning process, your decisions you will probably don't have good decisions, or what will be your next step. Okay. Okay, I think I'm right on time, so I can take a couple of questions. Okay, because I have a class at 8. I'm still a teacher, by the way. I have a B2 preparation course online, and okay, I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you have. I know your teachers. I mean, I know your experienced teachers, but I know that you have now a clearer. Uh, how can I say this? Aim or a clearer um, uh, view of how to reach meaningful learning, okay, and how to use the proper process so that the formative and the summative assessment, they don't look like they're two different worlds apart. Remember, like a latte, good balance of coffee and good balance of milk. That's all on me. Thank you very much. A big hug from Ecuador. I love your country. I've been to Lima, amazing city, amazing food. I really like your pollo asado, your tiradito, your parihuela, your chaufa, your everything. It's an amazing country, and we're, of course, we're all brothers and sisters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raul. You have yet to come to Arequipa, where food's even better.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you. You'll probably have something to drink as well, not a latte, but thank you. Thank you for teaching us about assessment, learning, about all this process, as you call it, right? Not
Yeah,
not focusing on just one thing. I think this is what we get from your talk. Thank you very much. Thank you
amazing.
very much for being here. Okay, continuing with our agenda, we welcome and thank Universidad Ricardo Palma for their participation in the TDC 2024, Arequipa. Universidad Ricardo Palma, with its motto, Citizens for a Culture of Peace, is a leading institution in higher education and committed to educate students to transform the world. Our 55 years of history have made us flexible and adaptable to an ever-evolving world. We promote humanism, a multidisciplinary essence and well-being. Licensed by SUNEDU, one of our roles is to train teachers of English to open their work to their students by enabling to communicate effectively in English, the language of the world. So let's find out a bit more about Ricardo Palma University and their language center, Idiomas Ricardo Palma, with this video. Let's go, team. It's a great pleasure to introduce the renowned specialist, Mónica Meléndez, on the subject, building up the ideal profile of the English language teacher towards 2025. Mónica Meléndez holds a licentiate degree in translation and interpreting in English and French with a minor in English teaching issued by Ricardo Palma University, a master's degree in education, educational policies, and management by San Martin University, a diploma in management of educational institutions and innovation in education issued by EUSIM Spain, a diploma in management of educational centers by IPAE, a teaching and higher education programs by Bausate Mesa University, a diploma in coaching given by CC PUC, the TESOL program for language program administrators, diploma issued by the University of Maryland in Baltimore County, the specialization in teaching English as a foreign language by PUC. She is a twice recipient of the Non-Traditional Student Scholarship at the University of Boulder, Colorado, USA. She was an English teacher at different language centers and schools until 2006. From 2006 to 2015, an academic supervisor of the adult program at IBNA and a coordinator of the academic area in Euridiomas. Currently, she is the director of the specialization program in English language teaching at Ricardo Palma University, the director of the Language Center, and the coordinator of the English courses at the Basic Studies programs at Ricardo Palma University. Welcome to the TDC, Monica.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Geraldine, for this warm welcome. On behalf of Ricardo Palma University, I would like to thank all the attendees, people that are currently connected, maybe with a cup of coffee, I suppose. I don't know if it's hot or cold in Arequipa. I think it's at least a little bit warmer than in Lima. We have a lot to share today. So if the SPS team gives me a hand, let's take a look at the presentation. All right, so I would like to start by sharing with you some questions. I don't know if you have ever wondered about the following questions. And the question is about your level of English. What is your level of English? Is it a native level of English? Is it near native? Is it British? American? Almost advanced? Is it average? Is it academic? Is it formal? Good? Does any of these word describe your command of the language? So I would like to go back to some of them so that you remember the terms I'm currently using to try to describe a command of the language. Have you ever used these terms to describe your level of English? Have you? Okay, let's take a minute. I don't know if I'm seeing the comments here. Everybody's commenting, right? All right. So let's take a look at some of them one more time. And let me share with you the first thing that is going to help us build up this profile of the ideal teacher of English in these times. Seeing ourselves in 2025 doing a better job than the one we are currently doing. So if these are not levels of English, why are people still using them? Have you ever wondered about that? Have you? Yes? All right. So my first conclusion is that, well, these are not levels of English, right? These, on the contrary, are levels of English. And we have to start using the right terms, the right terminology. So this is our first conclusion. Very quickly, we have reached our first conclusion, and it is that we, as professionals of the language, have to use the right terminology in the right time. We need to start educating our communities towards what it is a good command of the language and the correct description. we have to help people involved in the area of language teaching, whether it's administrators, language administrators, whether it's the principal of your institution. In schools, we have a principal. In my institution, we have a president, the president of the university. Maybe it's the director, the manager, the coordinator that might not have as their main field of work English. However, they have to be part of the processes of identifying who the right person for teaching English is in the institution. So all of us have to start using the correct terminology. So this is the correct terminology. And probably you have already identified where this terminology comes from. This is key in the ELT field, in the field of English language teaching, whether it is as a second language, as a foreign language. Okay, and who can tell me in the chat box what these standards, this framework, these descriptors refer to? If we take a look at the information, you can see that there are three big descriptors, right? Or three names that describe the competence in the language. It could be English, it could be any language that could be classified according to competences in three forms: basic, independent, and proficient. And you can see that in these three big areas, there are levels. There are two levels within them. One is starter, the other is elementary, right? And we'll go in depth into them in a minute. So we are talking about, I'm trying to see in the comments what the terminology refers to. Uh-huh, exactly. It is the Common European Framework. And we'll go into it in a minute. But as you can see here, this paper is written in Spanish because it comes from one of the documents that the Minedu, the Ministry of Education, has developed to explain in the very long document called the Plan Nacional or Curricula Nacional, o Currículo Nacional in Spanish. So what this framework for teaching in primary and secondary both are two components of formal education or basic education, which is the also the other term that we use for referring to mandatory education. They have the Common European Framework as their main reference, even though we are not part of the European community. So that tells us something, right? So you can see here information related to speaking performance for people that are graduating from school. On their fifth year of school, they are arriving, yes, in the best case scenario, they are arriving at these objectives. They are achieving them, yes. Their competence should be, that's the ideal, yes, it's a word that we'll be using a lot during the session. It's the ideal for graduating on the fifth year, right? Graduating from secondary school. There is another descriptor referred to the ones that graduate from secondary school related to reading competences. So I don't know if you can take a look at them. Let's take a look at them while I take a look at the comments on the chat box. Have I said thank you, Arequipa, for receiving Universidad Ricardo Palma? Yes, this evening. I think I did, right? In case I haven't or you were not connected. Hello, Arequipa. Okay, let's take a look at them. Are they similar to the Common European Framework descriptors that you are familiar with? All right. So this is the Common European Framework. The Common European Framework, or its acronym, or the word that we use, that is, it's not a word, but the term that we usually use is the CEFR, right? So this standard was created in 2001, as you can see here. So far, the paper, which is more than 300 words, has been translated to 40 different languages. The latest edition dates from 2020. It's very recent. Yes, it started being updated in 2018, and it was published again, yes, a revised version in 2020. We are using it in Peru, and almost everybody in the world is using it. So right now it is considered the most recognized framework for describing, as it is mentioned here, competency or proficiency in foreign language. Not necessarily describing your first language, but the language that you are learning, whether it's second or foreign. The language competences are subdivided, or are divided in 4 skills, right? And together we are naming them, right? You are home. I am here at home as well. Yes, in Lima. And we are naming together these 4 language skills. We have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But the Common European Framework doesn't stop there. It goes beyond and sees English, or a language in general, as a vehicle for communicating ideas and conceptions of the world. And it also includes in the descriptors aspects of the language that unite to the words, whether they are spoken or written, to make communication take place. So, which are these other components that together create a message? They are, you're naming them at home, yes, our paralinguistic features, right? The conceptions of the world, of the culture, yes. The register, it could be formal, it could be informal. The aspects that are related to what is not verbalized, right? The messages that underlie in the words, because there are concepts, as we're going to see in some minutes, that do not have an equal in other languages. There are ideas that belong to societies and cultures. And that is also learning and understanding, that is also part of learning a language. And that is also included in very clear descriptors in the Common European Framework. So that's probably one of the key features that makes it so unique and so useful and so renowned and respected around the globe. These 6 levels can be subdivided in other levels, right? We have 3 sub-levels for each level. So we have A1.1, A1.2, A1.3, and so on. And these new descriptors, called the global scales of language, have been added recently, and Pearson, I think, has been involved in that. The editorial, the publishing company, with their investigation teams, they have added information that is also very valuable to try to locate people within the section or the level, right? Because not everyone that is, for example, as it is mentioned here, a beginner, has the same command of the language. So we have these subdivisions, these sublevels, come in handy perfectly. As we have seen, they are used in educational systems around the world. And this is a good example, what we have just seen from the Common European Framework used in our country. Something that is very important is that the Common European Framework takes into account the importance of meaning, of how we construct meaning by using mediation or interaction, right? So for being listened to, there needs to be a person interested in listening. Those aspects are also mentioned and well described in the Common European Framework. That is why it's so long. It's more than 300 pages. And it helps us construct better systems for teaching English and for learning it across the world. So, in a nutshell, we are saying that it's the international standard, right? We are also saying that it helps us describe language, and this is a good example. As it is mentioned here, the descriptors are stated as can do statements. It sounds a little redundant, right? Can do descriptors. So these are the descriptors. This is a very easy to understand and grasp graphic that can show us very clearly what could be interpreted for an A1, what could be taken as an A2, what could be a B1, a B2, a C1, a C2. As I take a look at the comments on our YouTube channel provided by SBS Education and SBS Librería Internacional, I would like you to please take a look at the information here before we go to the one that refers only to spoken production or oral performance. All right. So let's take a look at this. I mentioned a couple of slides before this one that these descriptors are using as the key component the word can to describe the ability of the person being evaluated under evaluation, or the person that we are referring to describe their proficiency of the language. So we as professionals of the language need to be fully acquainted with the Common European Framework. When we travel abroad, we can see that people refer to the command of the language as A1, A2, B1, B2. When we travel with our certificates of English, it's easier for people in other countries to identify our command of the language by seeing those terms in our certificates. That's why all international certifications use the Common European Framework. With those papers, the ones that include the Common European Framework, we can travel, very proud if it's a C1, a C2, obviously. But we can be sure that people will clearly see that if we say that we are an intermediate level, well, the paper certifies that. And all these descriptors are included in the paper according to the language skill. So we have descriptors, or the can-do descriptors, or the can-do statements for speaking, for listening, for reading, for writing, for register, for sociolinguistic competence, and many more. Now, let me ask you a question. When you evaluate your students, do you have the Common European Framework in mind? When you select the material for your English classes, do you have the Common European Framework in mind? When you state the objectives of your lessons, do you take into account the can-do statements? Have you ever used the complete version of the Common European Framework in your coordination meetings? Are you familiar with the long paper with all the descriptors? Well, this could be fun to do. And it will not only be, I promise it will be fun. It will be fun, but it will also be very useful for you and the community where you belong to. Like I said, there are decisions that have to be made in institutions. And just like the Minedu, that since 2014 is using the Common European Framework, as I would say, way before 2014, we have to use it as well. Yes, and we have to try to make students familiar with it as much as possible so that when they travel abroad, for example, they can say, I am an A1, I am A2, I am a B1, I am a B2, and so on. And if they do not have a certification that indicates so, they can plan to get one. And that will enable them to become more clearly citizens of the world. So it's not only through cell phones that we will be connected to the world. It will also be with papers, right? But with papers that are transparent and easy to understand by everyone. So this is our second conclusion. Remember that we are building up, just like we mentioned at the beginning of the session, or the name of today's session, we're building up the profile of the ideal teacher of English this year, yes, thinking of our work next year, because there are things that are happening next year. We'll show you in a minute. So this is our second conclusion. Everybody's taking notes because everybody has a notebook handy. Everyone is, yes, like the way we tell our students to do in class. Yes, I feel very happy, excited, yes, to be here with you this afternoon, but also very happy to play the role of the teacher because I don't often do that. I get, yes, very occupied doing other chores, but it's for me it's always exciting to deliver a lesson. So today I feel like the teacher, and everybody, when I teach, I always tell my students, please grab a pencil, grab a pen, and have a notebook handy. So our second conclusion is that I would like to invite you at this point to ask yourself the following questions. Okay, we have said that we have to guide and orient, yes, make easy for our institutions and for our students to get acquainted with the terminology, the right terminology of English, right? So that's one thing they do in addition to learning English with us. Do you think there are other things that they learn with you? Let's ask ourselves these questions. Do they develop social emotional skills with you in the English class? So we're doing the same that we did at the beginning. We're asking ourselves questions and try to identify what the answer is. Is learning a foreign language having an impact on their identities? When we refer to identities, one thing as Peruvians that has to be clear for us is that our country is made up of at least, yes, formal, accepted 49 different languages. Remember that the language is a component of a culture. There are more. There are more than 49. 49 identified. Yes, and we want all of them to survive. We want them to flourish. We want them to be used. So we don't have within our country only one culture, only one identity. So whether I am in Lima, in Arequipa, in Puno, or in Piura, is my identity being impacted positively or negatively by the use of English or the learning of it? Nowadays, try to see yourself now, yes, compare to how classes took place or how classes were when you were a student of English. Are classes now more crowded, or on the contrary, are they more personalized? So this is a question that I would like you to ponder. Yes, try to analyze it very honestly. In your classes, are you focusing more on helping people get ready for international exams or your course evaluations, the midterm, the final, the oral exam? Or are your students actually working on developing their oral or written competences? And here is a question of something that people tend to think has transformed the world. I don't know if we can infer that because of the appearance of cell phones. Have cell phones become an aid in class, or have they become a burden? Are your students able to use their cell phones in class? Have they affected their attention span? I have an answer, but I'm pretty sure it's the same one, the one you guys are arriving at. But is it true that there are things that have changed completely the way English has has been taught for the last 20 or 30 years? So we might not think that in a conference we would be asked questions. Maybe we arrive at a conference or we connect like this evening thinking that we will receive the answers. But I'm sharing the responsibility with you. I'm trying to invite you to have these questions, yes, to take them with you after this session, after today's session. Go to your classes. I would like to invite you to go to your classes and think of them. Yes, because transformation takes place only when we think about things, when we reflect upon what's going on in your classes, what's going on with your students, what's going on outside classes. And education has transformed because of individual and specific situations, like Montessori, for example, or Reggio Emilia. Yes, these were not countries' decisions. These were not mandatory decisions, right, from the people in the government in the countries where they started, like Montessori in Italy. Little by little, the transformation was became widespread, and people starting using all those approaches and techniques because of the positive results that they had at the places where they took first place. So, do you have any idea of one component or one methodology that has transformed the way English is taught? Let's see. I'm taking a look. Okay, I don't know if it has positively or negatively transformed the way English is taught, but one thing is certain: music that we can call popular, right? That is now handy. You cannot see my cell phone because I have the university beautiful flowers as a background. But in the past, right, we used to look for music on, first it was the cassettes, compact discs, flash drives, videos. When I lived in the States, VH1 used to be very popular, and we used to watch videos all day long. I don't know if VH1 still exists. It was a channel on cable, a TV channel. But now music comes through streaming, and you can personalize it. You can have, in addition to YouTube and YouTube Premium, a YouTube channel only for music. Not only that, YouTube creates selections that they call mixes, and Spotify does the same, of the songs that you listen more often, and creates these selections just made for you. Something I guess nobody guessed or imagined 20 or 30 years ago. But not only music and podcasts, which is the second thing that is way popular these days. Podcasts with people talking about the most bizarre and the most necessary things. Well, necessary doesn't need an adverb, but nevertheless, you get the idea. People talking about different things, the things that we like, maybe, and we get to choose because they are in English, they are in Spanish. There are podcasts in Peru, in Lima, in Spain. The ones in Mexico are very popular, about you name it, about anything, right? And the one I guess that is everywhere, TikTok, right? With its algorithm that also shows you what the algorithm apparently decides you like, based, of course, on the things that you like. They have definitely impacted the way we learn English. So we can say this. We don't know if these have they have made a huge change, but they have an impact. That is for sure. Why are we talking about that? Because we're talking about that because things are going to happen in 2025 in the world and in our country. As you know, yes, the program for international student of assessment has been being administered in Peru every time. We are not part of the OECD. However, yes, the exam or these sets of tests have been administered in our country ever since the exams were created. That is, as we can see here, from 1997. They had three main subjects: math, reading comprehension, and science. As of 2025, there will be a new section of this test, and that section is English. And PISA has decided to use the Common European Framework as the standard for describing the performance or competence of the students that will be evaluated. And who is evaluated? Ever since it started, the people evaluated are school kids that are about to graduate, the 15-year-olds. So they could either be on their third, fourth, or almost no one, but there are still some, yes, people in high school, or the fourth and the fifth, the third and the fourth year of high school. So they are about to graduate from mandatory education. They will be assessed on three different components that we will see in a minute. So why is this important? It is important because it can help us make decisions related to the policies, the norms that regulate the teaching of English in our country, and they could also help the institutions where the exam will be administered. We will see how those students are doing and use that data to better, yes, or to keep, if results are good, the way we teach. It will definitely, data is always useful. We language teachers are professionals, and as professionals, people that have the training on teaching are teachers. Teachers of English are mainly teachers, and we respect science, and we know that things can get better if we have data. We can use data to analyze situations, to analyze problems, and to bring up solutions. So as of 2025, every 6 years, so that is every two administrations, English will be added to the test. And among the 23 countries that will be evaluated, 16 from them in Europe, Peru will also be evaluated, among other countries in Latin America, such as Colombia. So, what do you think? Will your school be there? There will be schools, yes, across the country. And the data that they show indicates whether it's a public school, a private school, and whether they are on the third or the fourth year of study in secondary school. Yes. And like I said, it will include three components: reading, speaking, and listening. Are we ready? What will the result be if your students are evaluated tomorrow? Now, the results are also shared according to ability or by ability. So there will be a result for reading comprehension, one for speaking, one for listening, and together, the three of them will have an average result, right? Where the three of them are combined, a main result will be identified. This is an example of the listening component. So they will have to, there are activities related to matching, as you can see here, to connecting. There are more difficult ones like this one that is in the reading section, right? So are these similar to the tests that you run in your schools or language institutions? Did you know that there was going to be a component of English in PISA and that it was going to, or that it will take place next year? Well, if not, we are here for that, right? We have prepared information that will be useful. Now, this doesn't mean, and with this, we can go back to the questions, not because a test is going to be run, it means that we are going to train students for tests and forget about developing or helping them develop, yes, or become proficient or develop competences in English, whether it's listening, speaking, reading, or writing. So we can summarize that in general, English is being used by 15-year-olds, the ones that are going to be evaluated around the world. English is being used, and because of that, they are probably more in contact with English than ever before. They are using it in social media. In when they use, for example, Chat GPT, when playing video games, yes, when they talk with their peers, because some of these words come from social media. Social networks make some words popular, and students, take them and make these terms part of their regular language. One thing that has been identified is that, for example, now more than before, people tend to watch movies, videos, and shows in their mother tongue, which is English, right? In their language of origin, and they do not seek for videos, movies, or shows that are dubbed. They look for information in English with subtitles. So that adds up to the contact or the exposure that they can have to English. Another thing that is now different compared to 10, 20, and more years is that there are more private lessons in English these days. Have you noticed that you now probably have more private students than before? It is because English is being enforced in almost practically all schools, all private schools, most of secondary schools, if not all, in public schools and in primary, when the parents committee helps the institutions English be taught in primary schools. And there is one more component that makes sometimes people decide whether they want their kids to study in certain schools and not in others. The international tests of English. It is very popular now, yes, very common to see schools that include international exams at the end of certain periods, at the end of primary, at the end of secondary studies, of their secondary studies. And many language institutions include them, whether it's for free or not. For example, in Ricardo Palma University, we include them at the end of the advanced level and at the end of the intermediate level as well. So it is something that adds up to all the things that are offered to parents and kids in most institutions. So they have become kind of popular, I would say. I mean, and that makes people be more interested in studying English outside the school. So here are some more conclusions. So you're adding them up, right, to the first and the second. We have for sure that the way English is taught and the way English is learned these days has completely changed. It has evolved. Nowadays, kids learn in a different way. Not only kids, grown-ups as well. And nowadays, it's not necessary to talk about the advantages of learning English because they are common. They are widespread and they are well known by everyone. Because of that change, English material for teaching English has evolved as well. So, what can we see in new material? Material that we have to make the most of. We have to take full advantage of the good material that comes to our hands when we teach English. Because we, for example, at Ricardo Palma University, we run a program for teachers of English. And one of our mottos is that teachers are not replaceable. You can change the book, you can change the system, the number of hours. Probably instead of doing 2 hours every day, you do 3 hours every other day, right? Until you complete the number of hours of the course. But teachers cannot be substituted by a book or by a program. They are necessary because they are the ones that make things happen. But we need good allies in our classes. And what books have nowadays? They have enticing pictures like these pictures from the 21st Century Communication book that focuses on helping people develop 21st century skills, especially or focused on communication competencies. What do they have? They have infographics, they have activities to develop critical thinking, they have charts where people are invited to interview each other, but with questions that make them reflect upon the world. So things have a context, units have a topic, and within that topic is that language, the forms of the language are presented, like grammar or vocabulary. So these days, the teacher doesn't show up saying, today we're going to learn the simple present, because that's completely discontextualized. What do we say? That today we will describe our everyday habits or our personal routines. These books also include tips that, if they learn them correctly, they can use them in other educational scenarios. And not only that, they can use them when they work. These pictures are taken from reality. One thing that they use or that will be needed when they work are the skills to give or deliver a presentation. So some of those books include them, right? And they invite the students to correct or to assess themselves by checking their goals. The communicative approach is very aligned to this type of teaching because it makes people talk, and by talking, exploring their beliefs, analyzing their lives, talking about the things they like and dislike. With the communicative approach, they are invited to share. So, right now, it is one of the main approaches that people are embracing. So, whether it's in a digital form or in a printed form, books have changed. They include things for students to work in pairs, to develop their creativity, to develop higher order thinking skills, and teachers evaluate their good performance based on what students are able to do. And if things go right in the English class, they will also learn 21st century skills, such as digital literacy, working collaboratively, communicating by backing up their thoughts, respecting other people's ideas. So here come some of our last conclusions. We're reaching the end. Material for teaching English has evolved. Teachers are not to be substituted, and we should aim at helping students develop communicative skills. The world has also changed, right? We are facing problems that are political in nature. There are people that say things that are not true. Maybe opinions are shown or shared as if they were facts when they are not. And English has become the language of the world. Migration has made us be more aware of different cultures, and books also include that. Problems with the climate, with the environment, and political upheaval and political turmoil are also shown in books. So books are real. They show the world and they make people reflect upon them. In the university, and I hope the same takes place in your institutions, we try to make sense of the students' decision to become, for example, doctors and engineers, and try to include in our lessons topics that are interesting to them and interesting to the world, not only interesting but necessary. I guess everyone will be interested in talking about this because I guess everybody likes coffee. I also have my cup of coffee, which you cannot see. At this point, I guess we still have time. I don't know if the SBS team can tell me we are about to finish. I would have loved to see a video with you. I guess we don't have much time. All right, they tell me that we have 10 minutes. So let's take a look at the first video. It's a 1 minute video only, and it has to do with expedition to Amazon.
In the morning towards sunrise in about 3.5 hours.
It's a huge effort to get weather equipment up to these elevations. That's why it hasn't really been done before.
The snow and ice that you see here eventually is going to make its way down into the Amazon.
It's not just water in the river. It's water in the glaciers, in the atmosphere, in the clouds.
The Amazon is the heart of the planet. And all these rivers are the veins of this heart. There are some people trying to make the difference.
So everybody can keep enjoying this beautiful and amazing place that is our planet.
It's going to be really neat to see what's going on in there. Let's go.
So this is something that will take place. All right, so this is something that will take place through Disney, I guess, on October 10th. And it's part of an event that we were very privileged to attend at the university, where we saw explorers explaining all their wonderful work in the Amazon River. In words could be short to explain all the things that they do to preserve the world, to make the work livable for us. And I wish students look up to us the way I personally look up to explorers, because they are scientists that devote their lives to making the world a better place. This Nat Geo Society event was very enriching for the people who attended, and it has been summarized in this video that will be aired on October 10th through Disney Channel, because it has the Nat Geo component there. So I invite you to watch it, to share it with your students, because it was developed in the Amazon River that starts way up high on our beautiful mountains, where the glaciers are, still there, hopefully for long. There is another thing that is changing our world, and that is AI. Scientists, futurologists are saying that we are moving from the information age to the experience age. And what is the age of experience? The age of experience is an era, a time where we will decide what the machines will do. People that instead of, that probably see, a dystopia in our future, are also inclined to say that AI at one point can get out of control. And here we as teachers have to make decisions and have to make ourselves several questions. Is it a good thing to have cell phones, smartphones, tablets, and laptops in our sessions? if students are there with you, looking at you, is it a good idea to send them to do something with their cell phones? What if while they are doing that thing, a TikTok notification pops up? Will they stop themselves from seeing it? Or they will do so and you will lose them forever? Or at least for the minutes of the class. The age of experience has to do also with how much information we are consuming these days. And the Internet of Things is one main characteristic of these times and the next 10 or 20, where almost everything will be connected to everything else, and they will communicate with each other with our commands, hopefully. Did you know that by 2020, more than 26 billion people used internet devices or devices connected to the internet? This is a book that tries to talk about that. The SBS team can tell me if we have 2 minutes for a video. If not, I can move on to saying goodbye, not to sharing the conclusions. This is a book about a very brilliant person, a futurologist, a historian. We have questions, okay? I will share the video in the summary of the presentation. And we can finish with the following. Before the 2025 test that will be run in our 15-year-old students, there was a test run by EF, Education First, states, because of the tests that it ran, that we are in a moderado command of the language in Lima, and among 100 countries, Peru is 51. So it's right in the middle. So are those good news? Are those bad news? Now that we are connected to the world, we are also more in contact with cultures everywhere. Not only with the cultures that are recently showing up in our country, but with the entire world, because of our electronic devices, because of our laptops, tablets, and principally our smartphones. There are decisions that are made by countries, for example, Korea, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, China, and Sweden, with data from EF, started making decisions related to the teaching and the learning of English in their countries. Peru also has a set of norms. For example, did you know that for graduating, I bet you do, for graduating from an undergraduate set of studies, you need conocimiento de otro idioma, and for a master's degree, you need dominio. That's the terminology that the Minedu, or the SUNEDU in this case, uses to refer to this component necessary to graduate. One thing that is for sure is that English as a vehicle of knowledge, or languages in general, as living features of cultures, spread ways of thinking. So it's always a win-win. By learning English, not only our economy and the economy of our country can get better, can improve. We will be able to get probably promotions, but also our cognitive skills will improve. There are stats that say so. And we have reached the end. I would like to invite you to take a look at this book, because not only myself and the places that I'm privileged to direct are advocates for reading. But there are several things that we cannot stop doing because of technology, because technology is not going to substitute writing. We have to keep on writing and we have to keep on reading. There is a beautiful book about the history of reading written by Irene Vallejo, and I wanted to finish with this because Irene Vallejo will attend the Hay Festival that will take place in Arequipa the first week in November. So you guys are very lucky. I hope, and I know this is also organized by SBS. SBS is making a wonderful thing happen in Arequipa for several years because this is not the first time that the Hay Festival is taking place there. It's because it's bringing to you the most renowned person about books. Her book, Yes, El Infinito en un Junco, has been translated to 90 languages. And that is one of the things we promote in our program. Before I invite you to ask questions, I would like to say that most of these contents are part of the program that we run at the university that trains teachers. This is our proposal taken from the program. Teachers have to have a good command of the language, described with the terms of the Common European Framework, a C1. And they also need to know how to teach. So you need to know your subject and you need to know how to teach it. And there are several characteristics that come from these two main ideas. You need to have a certificate that indicates your command of the language stated in the Common European Framework. You need to aim at always getting better at your command of the language. Yes. You also need to be a transmitter. Yes. You need to be able to share with the world your culture and welcome the cultures of the world because you are professionals of the language. Related to the ELT, you need to have knowledge of several different things, not only the language teaching approaches, but also 21st century skills, digital literacy. You need to be digitally literate and you need to teach your students to do it together with your institutions, whether it's a school or a higher education institution or a language center, and invite people to become better people, better citizens by developing social emotional skills when they respect people, when they talk, when they listen to them, for example, and to become more creative and more critical people. I wish this could show better, but what it says is that a good teacher can change a day. A great teacher can change a life. I really hope this talk has left you with questions. We need teachers that reflect, that write, that investigate, that do research, that write it down. We want to thank you on behalf of Ricardo Palma University for listening to us today. And I would like to thank the SBS team for welcoming us always, the university, and for letting us share information and close today's event, the TDC. It was a privilege and a pleasure to be with you this hour. So we're ready for questions. So like we said, to answer Elizabeth, this is our proposal. So it's based on evidence and based on the information that we share at our program. So in a nutshell, we need to know how to teach and we need to know what we teach. So we can face situations where students have a very competent command of the language, a B2 or a C1. So to face those situations, we also need to have a very competent command of the language. And probably something that is not mentioned here is that good teachers are the ones that are always seek for more, seek for information, and that keep on learning. Thank you, Elizabeth. I know it's becoming common practice. Giovanna has a question. It is becoming common practice to assess students. I would like to invite you to do both. If your institution includes international exams, in addition to that, please stay focused on helping people developing the language skills, not only train them for the test. Yes, don't get lost in preparing students for exams. Focus on what matters for their lives, right? And as a result, students will do good. They will do good in tests. Yes, we know that. The stats say so too. Thank you, Giovanna. Ernesto, you have a beautiful question. I hope I have given you information here to answer those questions, because not only our students, but we also need to share with them and have these skills. We need to be curious, have initiative, be persistent, flexible, be leaders, culturally aware. How can we do that? I would like to ask you to finish up the question that I always ask the teachers that I work with. How many times do you dedicate to relax by going to a museum, to enjoy art, maybe go to a theater? Those things can enrich our lives and are key components of teachers, not only because they will give you peace and beauty, but because they will give you more ideas to connect with your students. And a happy teacher will always have a happy class. And students right now need that, need moments to relax, to talk. The world is a turmoil these days. So our classrooms can be places of change and places of well-being if we are able to create the conditions for people to respect each other, to talk, and to show teachers and students that they are achieving or they are developing or strengthening their 21st century skills. Thank you for the question, Ernesto. There are several books for language teachers. There are well-renowned authors. Most of our books, I will tell you a story. In 2017, when we started developing the program, with the help of SBS, we brought from London 50 books for teachers of English, and we used them to create the material for our program. So I know for sure that some of the best books for teaching English are in SBS, and we're very happy to work with them, right? So take a look at them, compare the books, and more than that, coordinate with your teams to see if the book is a good fit for you. Thank you, Vicenta. So I hope to see you in Hey Arequipa. I will make everything happen to be there and see Irene Vallejo. I really like your question. You know what? Traditional methods are not expected to disappear. Let's not put them in a shelf or under the rug. We have to create our own eclectic method that has items from traditional scenarios and include them as part of the method that works for your educational setting. there isn't one best or great approach. No. The one that works is the one that you create for your specific situation. It could have parts of blended, it could have elements of gamification, it could have every now and then a dictation, a drill, it could have writing in paper, and all the things that we say now. Let's not do that because nowadays we are in the information era and we have to do everything on the laptops. No, that's not true. Even without laptops or without cell phones, things can work well in the classroom. So the question that I posed at the beginning, is there anything that has made a big impact? I guess that thing hasn't arrived yet. But what has changed our lives, on the contrary, is artificial intelligence and this age of technological flourishing, right? So we have to not only adapt but be smart. So I would suggest creating an eclectic method that works for your institution, for your age, yes, of students. And for that, for creating an eclectic method, you need to know about language teaching. So in case you do not have a degree for language teaching yet, I invite you to complete it. And in case you don't have a certificate that says your command of the language yet, please get one. You will, if you are a good teacher, you will have fun learning. Yes, and we need to look for things that makes us happy. Thank you very much, Manuel, for your question. Thank you. All right, I guess I added or I didn't add the thank you slide. I think I did not, but I had several videos. They were very long. I think I did. Thank you, Arequipa. Thank you, SBS. Thank you, everyone. Have a pleasant evening. I cannot hear you, Geraldine.
Thank you. Thank you. I was saying that we agree that you have been successful as making us reflect on who we are as teachers and who we want to become, all the way from the CFR to our social emotional skills. Well, this has been an amazing night, but unfortunately, we've reached the end of the TDC Arequipa virtual session 2024. We want to thank our two speakers, our consultants, the publishers participating, but especially to you, this community of English teachers who have been connecting with the sole objective of expanding knowledge in education in our work. I want to thank also thank the SBS team for the work backstage. Again, we remind you that to obtain your certificates of attendance, you must be registered. If you still haven't registered, you can do it now. You have the link here in the chat or in the description of the video. And that's all for tonight. Thank you very much and have a great night.